In 1860, a French naturalist traversing the dense Cambodian jungle in search of exotic insects encountered an extraordinary and unexpected sight. Henry Muhat stumbled upon a massive complex of stone temples, the ancient and awe-inspiring Angkor Wat, dating back some 900 years. His discovery unveiled one of humanity's most remarkable architectural achievements, yet left the world puzzled by numerous questions. Who constructed these monumental buildings? Why were they erected deep within the jungle only to be abandoned? At first, answers were elusive. However, a surprising clue later emerged from 13th-century eyewitness accounts recorded in China. The writings described Angkor Wat as an extraordinary citadel, inhabited by resourceful residents. Despite these descriptions, definitive archaeological evidence remained scarce until modern science stepped in to shed new light on this enigmatic civilization. Using advanced techniques such as radar imaging from space, archaeologists uncovered startling insights. They revealed that Angkor was far more expansive than initially imagined, a sprawling metropolis the size of London. Angkor Wat itself was merely one part of this vast and sophisticated urban complex, which ranks among the largest in ancient history. Angkor Wat remains one of the world's greatest enigmas. Its size and purpose continue to fascinate scholars, as it surpasses even the most colossal cathedrals in architectural grandeur. The temple features lotus-shaped towers that predate the renowned Cathedral of Chartres in France by a century. Stone structures rise skyward in tiered formations, as though aspiring to touch the heavens, while its endless corridors boast the world's longest relief carvings. Even with modern laser systems, replicating such construction today would pose an immense challenge. Professor Charles Hyam, a leading archaeologist on Khmer civilization, has been pivotal in unraveling Angkor's extraordinary history. Standing amidst Angkor Wat's sprawling expanse, the world's largest religious monument, he notes its sheer magnificence as both a temple and mausoleum for King Suryavarman II, known as the Sun King. The king's ashes were believed to have been placed beneath the central sanctuary. Symbolism permeates every aspect of Angkor Wat's design. Its vast moat represents the oceans surrounding Mount Meru, the legendary abode of Hindu gods. When Henry Muhat first encountered Angkor Wat, he was struck by its grandeur. He wrote that the temple could rival those built by King Solomon and stand alongside masterpieces such as Michelangelo's works, claiming it surpassed anything left behind by Greece or Rome. Although Muhat suspected the temples belonged to a sophisticated ancient civilization, he lacked concrete evidence. Located on Cambodia's northwest floodplains near the Great Lake, Angkor had become almost forgotten by the time Muhat arrived. A few Buddhist monks and villagers inhabited its ruins, but none possessed knowledge about who built it or how it evolved. Local legends suggested divine origins or that it had always existed. Muhat's published journals caused a sensation in Europe, sparking a wave of explorers and scholars eager to solve Angkor's mysteries. Yet his own journey was tragically cut short. Bitten by a poisonous insect, he died in 1861 within the same jungle that concealed his monumental discovery. As subsequent explorers cleared away layers of overgrowth, they uncovered even more temples adorned with intricate carvings. These elaborate reliefs depicted stories of Khmer mythology and religion. Ingeniously crafted sandstone sections carved meticulously on site likely took decades for artisans to complete. Inscriptions found at Angkor Wat included not only ancient Cambodian script but also Sanskrit, a sacred language of Hinduism. One of the most significant breakthroughs came from French scholar Georges Coedes, who painstakingly translated Angkorian inscriptions into 7 detailed volumes. These texts became instrumental in reconstructing Angkor's history, revealing it as the capital of the Khmer Empire during its zenith from the 6th century onward. Piece by piece, the mysteries surrounding Angkor Wat are being unraveled, offering glimpses into one of history's most sophisticated and enduring civilizations. Yet even now, its legacy etched into every stone and relief continues to captivate and inspire wonder among all who study it. Between the 9th and 15th centuries AD, a total of 38 kings ruled their vast empire from Angkor. The empire's borders extended from southern Vietnam to Laos, and from the Mekong River to western Thailand. But whose grand vision created this magnificent city, and why was it built amidst the dense jungle? Efforts to uncover its mysteries continued over time, culminating in a remarkable discovery. In the summer of 1296 AD, a junior Chinese official on a diplomatic mission visited Angkor. During his year-long stay, Zhou Deguan kept a detailed journal documenting what he observed. His diary vividly described a major civilization with a capital larger and more advanced than archaeologists had ever envisioned. However, questions arose: was Zhou's account factual or an exaggeration? To find answers, archaeologists scoured for evidence to confirm the existence of the city he depicted. As they painstakingly pieced together this colossal puzzle, the full story of Angkor began to emerge. For thousands of years, the indigenous Khmer people of Cambodia carved rice fields out of the jungle. These agrarian communities were mostly self-reliant and peaceful. However, by the 1st century AD, small rival kingdoms began to form throughout the region, frequently clashing with one another. In the 8th century, a visionary leader rose to prominence. Determined to establish a new sacred capital, he abandoned his home city in eastern Cambodia and commanded his people to embark on an epic westward migration across the Mekong River. After subduing his rivals, he selected the fertile lands between the sacred Kalen Hills and the Great Lake, Tonle Sap, as the foundation for his new citadel. In 802 AD, this leader was crowned Jayavarman II, Supreme World Emperor and King of Kings. Through his extraordinary charisma, he won the loyalty of his people. He not only ruled by divine right but was also venerated as a living god. At that moment, Jayavarman II irrevocably altered the course of Cambodian history. Over the next 500 years, his successors, considered divine rulers, continued to reign over Angkor. Each king left behind monumental structures built to celebrate their glory, which also served as their final resting places. By the 2nd century AD, the Khmer people had embraced Hinduism. Their royal temples were designed as tributes to Mount Meru, the mythological home of the Indian gods. For the architects and builders, these shrines embodied their mastery of religion, art, science, and political power. When Cambodia became part of France's colonial empire in the early 20th century, French archaeologists began extensive efforts to restore Angkor's temples. Upon their arrival, they found the site in great disarray, its once grand structures reduced to scattered ruins engulfed by jungle vegetation. Meticulously, they dedicated substantial time and resources to reconstructing these temples, piece by piece. In the 1960s, renowned archaeologist Bernard-Philippe Grolier offered a striking comparison: imagine finding Versailles Palace, Place de la Concorde, and the Louvre clustered within Paris city limits, surrounded by iconic cathedrals such as Notre Dame, Chartres, and Reims, all built before the 19th century. This description hinted at the unparalleled grandeur of Angkor when it thrived. Since Henry Muhat rediscovered Angkor in 1860, scholars have uncovered much about its history. However, little was initially understood about the culture responsible for creating these awe-inspiring monuments. Among them is Angkor Wat, the world's largest religious structure and an enduring symbol of divine power in Cambodia's heartland. But does this astonishing temple represent merely the surface of an even greater mystery? Zhou Deguan's journal provided invaluable insights into life in Angkor during its peak more than 700 years ago. Living with a Cambodian family during his 11-month stay, he recorded various aspects of local customs and culture. However, some of his accounts contained exaggerations, such as his claim that Angkor Wat was constructed in a single day by a mythical Chinese architect. Furthermore, his tone often reflected condescension, describing the Khmer people as barbarians, a bias common among his peers in imperial China toward those outside their own empire. Recognizing these prejudices, modern archaeologists have approached Zhou's writings with caution, carefully discerning between observation and bias. For decades during colonial rule, French scholars focused primarily on restoring Angkor's temples rather than analyzing Zhou's journal in depth. As a result, his account was largely overlooked during that time. However, as research has advanced, his diary has gained recognition as a key resource that sheds light on one of history's greatest civilizations. In the 1970s, the brutal regime of Pol Pot brought all activities at Angkor to a halt. His army of Khmer Rouge revolutionaries planted thousands of landmines around the site, rendering it inaccessible for decades. However, with Cambodia now achieving stability, work on the temples has resumed, paving the way for revitalization. Today, Angkor enjoys World Heritage Site protection, supported by funding from over a dozen countries for archaeological research. While much of the major restoration work has been completed, attention has shifted from the central temples to uncovering the mysteries of the surrounding structures. Just north of Angkor Wat lies Angkor Thom, a site enclosed by an 8-mile square wall that shelters the ruins of several remarkable stone temples. In 1860, explorer Henry Muhat suspected this area to have once been the Khmer Empire's great capital and its holy city. Like Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom's perfectly square walls are encircled by a vast moat and encompass an area comparable in size to Manhattan Island. At its heart stands the Bayon Temple. A 13th-century account by Chinese diplomat Zhou Deguan describes Angkor Thom as a bustling city alive with commerce and activity. Modern archaeologists are on a quest to validate these descriptions by uncovering remnants of that grand metropolis. Yet much of the evidence lies buried beneath dense forest vegetation. In recent years, archaeologist Jacques Gaucher has undertaken excavations within Angkor Thom's walls. At the outset, little was known about the vast 900-hectare city beyond its iconic stone temples and the remnants of the royal palace. The task seemed insurmountable, but Gaucher's perseverance is gradually piecing together a clearer picture. After 2 years of intense fieldwork, Gaucher and his team began mapping an intricate layout of canals, roads, and the sites of thousands of wooden homes that once populated the city. Zhou Deguan's journal alluded to a sophisticated political and religious capital, and now Gaucher's findings corroborate these accounts. Angkor Thom emerges as a sprawling city far more advanced than any contemporary European city of its era, an unparalleled marvel of urban planning. Zhou's descriptions of opulence, the gold lions, Buddha statues, and bronze sculptures are matched by inscriptions and archaeological evidence revealing it as the work of Cambodia's greatest monarch, Jayavarman VII. Jayavarman VII ruled from 1181 to 1219 and expanded the Khmer Empire to unprecedented heights. Within Angkor Thom's walls, he constructed a grand royal palace worthy of his legacy. Standing north of the Bayon Temple, this extraordinary structure was adorned with intricately carved lintels and painted depictions of Buddhas. Its roofs were expansive, supported by massive pillars and corridors that stretched harmoniously over wide distances. Gaucher's excavations of the royal palace confirm Zhou Deguan's descriptions. Archaeological surveys reveal evidence of vast interconnected corridors and structures supported by massive columns nearly a meter in diameter. The palace must have been an awe-inspiring architectural feat. This architectural grandeur also highlights the divine role Khmer rulers held in society. During his stay at Angkor, Zhou attended audiences with the king, who addressed subjects from a luxurious throne set in a gilded, golden window. Khmer rulers were revered as god-kings, embodying both spiritual and earthly authority. Zhou Deguan recounted a fascinating legend associated with the Khmer monarchy. Atop the palace rose a golden tower where the king ascended each night to meet with a celestial entity, a 9-headed serpent genie believed to safeguard the kingdom. Their nocturnal union was said to ensure divine favor. Failure on either side portended death or disaster for the ruler. These tales, bolstered by new archaeological discoveries, breathe life into Angkor Thom's extraordinary narrative. Once shrouded in mystery, this holy city is now being unearthed piece by piece, offering unparalleled insights into one of history's most advanced and fascinating civilizations. It's uncertain how things might have unfolded, but one thing stands out: had circumstances been different, he might have been an effective king for an extended period. What we do know is that it was a common practice among the aristocracy and regional landed gentry to send women from their families to join the king's entourage as concubines. This practice symbolically and physically tied the provinces to the central authority. It wouldn't be surprising if the king indeed maintained a large harem from which he could choose. Historical sources, such as Zhou de Guan, note that the king had 5 wives and a harem of 3,000 women. The king rarely appeared outside his palace, but during events like the New Year festival, he made public appearances. On such occasions, fireworks were launched, including rockets visible from as far away as 13 kilometers. Firecrackers and other explosive devices so large they shook the entire city added to the festivities. Beneath the king's rule, an intricate bureaucratic system functioned with ministers, generals, astronomers, and various other officials. Below these high-ranking officers were numerous minor employees, comparable to those in other societies. Many of these positions were likely filled by families honored by the original Jayavarman, who had established Angkor some 500 years earlier. However, Zhou's writings don't make clear exactly how many people lived in Angkor. Clues emerge from Sanskrit inscriptions found in temples such as Ta Proa. For instance, it's documented that the temple accommodated at least 12,000 individuals, including a substantial number of priests, over 650 dancers, and other temple officials responsible for its upkeep and activities. This figure raises questions about Angkor's total population. If one temple operated with such a large supporting staff, estimates suggest the entire city might have housed anywhere between 80,000 and 150,000 people, a significant urban population compared to London's estimated 30,000 residents in the same period. Recent archaeological findings validate historical hypotheses about Angkor's size and sophistication. Evidence confirms that Angkor Thom was not only populous but also efficiently structured. However, the dense jungle that now envelopes the area hints that something even more remarkable could still be hidden from view. In 1994, archaeologists initiated a groundbreaking collaboration with NASA to uncover these secrets. Using advanced radar technology developed for penetrating thick vegetation, NASA aimed its instruments at Angkor as the Space Shuttle Endeavour flew over Southeast Asia. The resultant radar images covered an expanse 100 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide, providing unprecedented insight into the city's ancient layout. For the first time, scientists gained a comprehensive understanding of Angkor's infrastructure from a millennium ago. Spanning an area comparable to modern London, Angkor emerged as a sprawling metropolis of immense scale. Archaeologist Elizabeth Moore described this discovery as transformative, reshaping perceptions of Angkor's scope and complexity. The radar data demonstrated how various regions contributed to what eventually became Angkor's central core. The radar imagery revealed unknown temples scattered across the Angkorian basin along with an extensive network of roads and canals leading into the walled city. A distinct grid layout, showcasing meticulous urban planning, became clear for scholars studying the city's remains. Moore observed that no other Southeast Asian civilization had so effectively manipulated its environment to support such advanced infrastructure. Archaeologists like Christophe Pottier began leveraging these findings to trace Angkor's ground-level features. Newly identified temples often served as focal points for local communities, similar in function to village churches in medieval Europe. Their presence hinted at the size of surrounding settlements, illuminating Angkor's vast extent. There was a significant connection between the villages and the royal capital of Angkor. Evidence of this relationship can be found in ancient inscriptions, which have guided archaeologists like Charles Hyam in understanding their link. These records reveal that approximately 80,000 people from around 3,000 villages were tasked with supplying the goods needed annually to sustain the capital's population in comfort. Vast quantities of produce and manpower were transported along a network of intricate roads leading to the city center, evidence of which can even be seen today in satellite images. The inscriptions highlight the role of the ambitious builder, King Jayavarman VII. A visionary leader, he undertook the massive project of constructing infrastructure across his entire kingdom. One of his key motivations was facilitating pilgrimages. He ensured that rest houses were built at distances equivalent to a day's journey along major routes. His achievements in moving and shaping stone surpassed those of any other Khmer ruler, earning him recognition as one of history's greatest builders. If all the temples scattered across Angkor's vast region were interconnected into one sprawling metropolitan area, it could rightly be described as a rural metropolis, comparable in scale to modern-day London. At its core, a walled royal enclave the size of Westminster existed, surrounded by hundreds, possibly thousands, of smaller sanctuaries spread throughout the area. Collectively, these supported an extensive urban framework. Early research suggests that Angkor may have been home to a population of 1 million people at its peak between the 11th and 13th centuries. This would make it one of the largest cities in the world during its time. The indigenous Khmers demonstrated immense ingenuity and resilience, building one of the most extraordinary cities in a challenging climate. But how did this massive population thrive in such an environment? The answer lies in their ability to master water management, which was their most valuable resource. Cambodia experiences 8 dry months each year, where rivers often shrink to mere trickles, followed by intense monsoon floods for a few months. Angkor was strategically located near the Tonle Sap Lake, which swells to 4 times its size during the rainy season. This natural feature ensured a continuous supply of fresh water and an abundance of fish for sustenance. Historical accounts describe the richness of aquatic life in the region. Black carp were especially abundant, along with species like catfish, freshwater conger eels, and prawns that could weigh up to half a kilogram each. Even large crocodiles roamed these waters. In addition to fish, rice formed a staple part of their diet, as is common across much of Asia. Rice paddies required ample water for successful cultivation. By the time Jayavarman II, Angkor's founding ruler, arrived, peasant farmers were already cultivating ancient rice fields. Over subsequent centuries, successive god kings ordered extensive tracts of jungle to be cleared for expanded rice production. However, this ambitious agricultural development necessitated sophisticated irrigation systems. Failure to control water could put the entire kingdom at risk. Efficient canals were central to Angkor's success. These waterways enabled the daily transportation of tons of heavy stones used for temple construction from quarry sites. Urban planners like Jacques Gaucher attribute Angkor's achievements to its elaborate network of interlinked reservoirs, ponds, and canals, all designed to store and distribute water efficiently. The royal palace itself contained intricate canal systems, mirrored by similar setups within the wider city and its surrounding areas. Recent excavations by Jacques Gaucher have revealed more about this advanced water management system. Within the royal city, 2 enormous reservoirs were discovered, each measuring 300 meters in length and 20 meters in width. A major road intersected these reservoirs, yet water still had to flow freely between them. To understand this complex arrangement, Gaucher began digging. The excavation uncovered a stone dike where the road met the reservoirs. It became clear that these reservoirs were constructed at slightly different elevations. Narrow underground channels within the dike allowed water to move from the higher reservoir to the lower while maintaining the road's functionality above. However, this highly precise system had inherent vulnerabilities. Managing water on such a large scale required meticulous attention to detail. Even small deviations in environmental conditions or lapses in maintenance could disrupt its equilibrium. Gaucher suggested that while this ultra-sophisticated system was a marvel of engineering, it could also be a potential weakness if challenged by unforeseen crises, be it social, political, or environmental. Nevertheless, this intricate network provided essential water throughout Angkor's royal city for drinking, cooking, bathing, and more, solidifying the Khmer's mastery over an invaluable resource that defined their civilization's success for centuries. Today, Potier and his Cambodian colleagues delve into this rich historical landscape by investigating previously uncharted ruins outside Angkor Thom's walls. While many of these structures have suffered significant damage over time, their architectural details provide clues about their origin and purpose. One recently located site appears to date back to the late 9th or early 10th century and features intricate carvings depicting Garuda figures with outstretched wings. Each discovered temple likely served as the spiritual hub for villages accommodating 100 to 300 residents. Based on current findings, Pottier estimates this region was home to thousands of similar temples, a staggering realization pointing to an enormous and highly organized population spread across Angkor's vast territory. Cambodia is an intensely hot country where enduring the day without feeling drained seems almost impossible. There are no valves, no basins to access water easily. However, most families have a pond, some of which are shared among several households. It's common for men and women to bathe together in these ponds. The construction of Angkor's extensive water systems and monumental stone temples nestled in the jungle required colossal manpower. This raises the question, why would ordinary people dedicate so much of their lives to toiling in the name of the king? Why did the peasantry, laboring under harsh conditions, offer what appears to be willing cooperation in maintaining the heart of the kingdom? The answer may lie in their deep-seated belief that the king was a living god. Many may have perceived their labor as an act of devotion, service to a deity. This belief likely fueled their endurance and dedication. There is little doubt this conviction played a key role in the creation of Angkor's magnificent city. However, alongside the efforts of the Khmer people, it was the utilization of slave labor that made such grand undertakings possible. Records describe these enslaved individuals as wild men from the hills, who were often bought to serve wealthier families. The affluent might own more than 100 slaves, while less wealthy families subsisted with 10 or 20. Only the very poor owned none. In many cases, enslaved individuals endured brutal treatment. For instance, inscriptions recount one man who attempted to escape his assigned land. Upon being recaptured, he was punished with the gouging of his eyes and the mutilation of his ears. Harsh penalties extended to all subjects within Angkor. Severe crimes might lead to executions by burial. Criminals were thrown into pits outside the city, which were then filled with earth and stones. Lesser infractions often resulted in amputations. Feet, hands, or even the nose could be severed as a form of punishment. Despite its strict societal order, Angkor boasted an economy rooted in international trade. While the Khmer produced enough food to sustain their growing population, they also generated a surplus for trade with neighboring states. Goods such as finely woven cloth, massive bronze statues, ivory, kingfisher feathers, beans, and beeswax were exported widely. China emerged as their primary trading partner. Depictions on the Bayon temple reliefs showcase Chinese trading ships arriving across Tonle Sap Lake just south of Angkor. Archaeological excavations within the royal palace have unearthed significant quantities of Chinese ceramics, underscoring thriving trade ties with China. Chinese settlers had been part of Angkor's societal fabric for years before diplomatic visits such as Zhou Daguan's in 1296. Chinese traders would customarily marry Cambodian women soon after arrival, benefiting not only from partnerships but also from women's significant influence in commerce. In Cambodia, women dominated trade activities. They managed markets, displayed goods on mats laid upon the ground, and often controlled business dealings. Additionally, women held prominent roles. They owned property, engaged in trade ventures, and even served as bodyguards for the king. However, Chinese accounts also highlight more personal reasons behind their interest in Cambodian women. Some report these women as highly independent and assertive in relationships, even asserting that just days after childbirth, they were ready to resume intimacy, discarding husbands who did not share their enthusiasm. By the end of the 13th century, Angkor reached its zenith, a period marked by architectural splendor and advanced infrastructure. A sophisticated irrigation system both sustained its population and facilitated economic prosperity. Yet at its apex, signs of decline began to surface, cracks that would ultimately lead to the city's abandonment. It took nearly 5 centuries for Angkor to flourish into the extraordinary urban center described in Zhou Daguan's writings during 1296. But within a mere century thereafter, it had been reclaimed by the jungle. The reasons for this dramatic decline remain debated, but warfare was undoubtedly a recurring factor throughout Angkor's history. Rivalries with neighboring states were relentless. In its early years, Angkor waged wars against the Cham people from Vietnam. Many temple walls around the city immortalize epic battles against this fierce enemy. However, by Zhou Daguan's era, A rising threat came from Siam, modern-day Thailand. The expanding Thai kingdom proved to be a formidable adversary. Accounts suggest that during hostilities with Siam, entire Khmer villages were decimated. To Zhou de Guan's eyes, Angkor's army appeared ill-prepared for war, poorly equipped and lacking advanced weaponry or tactical discipline. Soldiers went unclothed into battle, armed only with lances and shields but without bows, breastplates, or helmets. By 1431, Thai forces had invaded Angkor and sacked the city. They plundered valuables and enslaved a significant portion of the population, including members of the king's court, carrying them off to Thailand. The city of Angkor, once a thriving hub of civilization, was gradually reclaimed by the encroaching jungle over 5 centuries. In 1861, the French explorer Henri Muhat reflected on this phenomenon, pondering, what became of this powerful and enlightened race capable of creating such monumental architectural wonders? The common explanation for the fall of the Khmer Empire is a loss of central power, but Angkor's decline might have roots deeper than political instability. Modern archaeologists propose that a combination of environmental, social, and leadership factors contributed to the city's gradual collapse. Charles Hyam, an expert on Southeast Asian history, highlights the reign of Jayavarman VII, often referred to as the Great Builder King. His relentless construction initiatives, driven by seemingly boundless ambition, may have depleted the empire's resources to unsustainable levels. This king was also the first Buddhist ruler of Angkor following centuries of Hindu governance. The philosophical shift brought about by Buddhism, a religion often emphasizing compassion and balance, might have led the Khmer population to reflect critically on the lavish excesses of their rulers. Faith in the divinity of kings, previously a cornerstone of Khmer culture and governance, could have begun to wane, eroding the vital bond between ruler and subject. Jacques Gaucher offers another perspective. He theorizes that the Khmer Empire's reliance on an advanced water management system, a marvel of engineering at the time, was both its greatest asset and its Achilles heel. The system's complexity and sensitivity required constant vigilance and upkeep. If neglected, irrigation channels and reservoirs could become blocked or fall into decay, a failure that would disrupt agriculture and destabilize the entire societal framework. The meticulous balance between humanity and nature could have tipped perilously out of favor. Other scholars point to deforestation as a critical factor. The massive scale of forest clearing for rice cultivation likely led to soil erosion and the silting up of rivers and canals, which further undermined Angkor's ecological stability. Christophe Pottier suggests this environmental deterioration was not a sudden catastrophe but a long-standing issue that compounded over time. Adding to their woes, successive kings following Jayavarman VII appeared less inclined toward ambitious building or infrastructure projects, potentially paving the way for neglect. Facing growing pressures from external forces such as advancing Siamese powers, modern-day Thailand, and mounting internal vulnerabilities, the Khmer shifted their capital eastward to the banks of the Mekong River, near modern Phnom Penh. This relocation marked not an absolute collapse but a strategic retreat. Having adopted full Buddhist ideology with its rejection of material opulence, the Khmer chose a simpler existence. However, this new order meant abandoning Angkor's lofty grandeur, a glory it would never recover. For the next 400 years, the once majestic city lay hidden in obscurity. The lost city came back into global consciousness in 1860 with Henri Muhat's rediscovery. Today, Angkor Wat is celebrated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and recognized as one of the world's greatest wonders. In Cambodia's contemporary era of relative peace and stability, archaeologists continue to unearth fresh insights about this ancient metropolis. What once was consumed by jungle has now been reimagined as a vibrant testament to human ingenuity, a city that ruled an empire for over half a millennium and remains a symbol of enduring historical significance.